So without wasting any time, let's get started and let's jump to the first question. Uh, so, any one of you guys who is new to the session, the way this session will proceed that I will start with few questions. I will wait for your response and I will try to make the session as interactive as possible. So let's jump to the first question for today. And before I go to the first question, let me tell you, based on my experience, like I am using Terraform uh, from 2018. And honestly, in none of the interview, no one has asked me about anything about Terraform. I think just basic questions, but no one wants me to develop a code at that, a whiteboarding kind of an interview where I need to develop a Terraform module or something from scratch. So we will try to keep it as high level as possible. But I just want to ensure that I will be able, if you have any question, please feel free to ask me. I will try my best to answer those questions. But honestly, from the last few years, I'm not regularly doing this Terraform coding or scripting, but I have some experience with Terraform. Like I mentioned, I started picking Terraform in 2018 when it was on the earlier version, like 0.11, and it was pretty buggy. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's get to the first question. Okay, so anyone of you who's using Terraform, uh, can anyone tell me what do you think of Terraform and what exactly the purpose it is trying to solve?
Just a very quick description. I think it's used for spinning up infrastructure as code on different cloud platforms.
Yeah, that is, yeah, you're absolutely correct. So just to start one step back, it's a tool which is developed by a company called HashiCorp. I mean, most of you, I think, already aware of this company, HashiCorp. And they not only provide Terraform, they have a bunch of other solutions. For example, Vault, and this is called Packer. Packer is used to build your AMI, Amazon Machine Image, and other kind of images. They have other tools like Vault for securing your secrets. Boundary, I'm not sure. I have never used it. Console for multi-cloud service. So they have a bunch of other tools also, like Vagrant. I used to use it earlier. So basically, it is a product which is created by HashiCorp, and Asif saying it was tool to create. Yeah. So yeah, exactly right, Asif. So David has used a term called something called IAC. Okay, IAC, which is called infrastructure as a code. Anyone know in what is the tool which is provided by the AWS which perform the same function? I mean, to create right infrastructure as a code. Exactly, cloud formation. Okay. So basically, whatever the thing, if I need to create an instance, I basically go over here, go to EC2, right? Then launch instance, need to fill all the details, right? So rather than doing all these stuff manually, I will define something called a state, or let's say in the simple term called configuration file. And I will pass it to a Terraform binary. Terraform, what it is going to do, it is going to take these files. Mainly, they are the one which is ends with .tf, right? Terraform is going to take these files and going to make an API call on behalf of us and create the infrastructure for us. Okay. It has some other advantage. We are going to see it right now, but that's the gist of it. It's just going to read all these configuration file, and you should have like some kind of a keys for it to authenticate to your cloud provider. Okay, we are also going to check that feature also, and basically Terraform read all these, and it is going to make those API calls to the cloud provider. That is as simple as we can tell about Terraform. Okay. Now the second part of it, like Asif has mentioned, it has used something called a SCL, which is called HashiCorp configuration language. Okay. Anyone know why Terraform or this HashiCorp as a company, they are using SCL as a language, and why can't, so for example, if you go to the Kubernetes world, they have something called YAML. So why can't they use YAML and all these, language to create the configuration rather than creating their own language, like for example, HashiCorp, SCL. Anyone know what is the reason behind that? I'll show you, this is like a really basic code to run. Like this is how the SCL look like. But my question is why they are using this SCL versus why can't they use something else like JSON or YAML or any other to create the infrastructure? So one thing is, I mean, there's no particular, yeah, SCL is more flexible than YAML. Yeah, exactly. One of the reason is that as far as I have read about the HashiCorp and the company as a whole, is that they have started with this SCL language just specifically for Terraform. And Asif, we will come back to that part, why it is more flexible than YAML. They have started this for Terraform, but the thing which I have mentioned it over here, like the other products, they are using this, the language they have developed now for other product also, like for Packer. I don't know about the other product, but I have worked on Packer. So they are using this language for Packer also. So this has now become the standard language. Okay. And one specific reason, which is not a specific technical reason, is in case of JSON or whatever way you pronounce JavaScript object notation, you cannot add a comment. Whereas this SCL, it support comment. So in your this code that I've showed you, I can add comment here. For example, this, I can say provider block. So, I mean, there are other reasons which we are going to talk about, but this is how it is started. I mean, mainly they started for Terraform, and later on they extend this concept to the other product also. Okay. Okay, let's move further. So this is one thing. The next part of it is like if you have ever installed Terraform, Terraform comes as a single binary. Okay, so if I go here, it is just one single binary, right? And even if you go to their website, I can simply say Terraform download. Okay, if you can check it for any of these versions, you will simply see that you just need to download one binary. This one. So way Terraform extend its functionality is something called a plugins. Okay, and they have a different plugins depending upon your different providers. So this is a really important term called providers. So this is one of the most important website. If you're using Terraform, you should be aware of this one. And if you go to the section called browse provider, you see they support almost all the popular cloud platform as well as the other platforms also. So for example, this Nomad something. And even if you go to something a really basic, so for example, they even have the provider for this random. So what's the use of that? So let's say I need to create a S3 bucket and I need to add some random number because you know that S3 bucket is unique all over the world. I cannot create a bucket named Prashant, right? Because somebody already have created that Prashant because that namespace is unique. So if I need to add something random on the top of it, some random integers or numbers, something like that, I can do it with the help of this random module. Or I don't need to write my own code to add that randomness, right? So Terraform provide a lot of these providers, and the way they have done it is with the help of a plugins. And we are going to see how that plugins look like and which command is execute that plugin. But on the top of it, This is the gist, that they have a support for almost everything from Kubernetes to Alibaba Cloud, whatever you can think of it. Now, one of the biggest misconception about Terraform is that you write a code once and you can utilize it anywhere, which is not true. So I can give you a simple example. Let's say in AWS, you are working on, I can give you any example like a VPC or application load balance or EC2. The API defined for these substract or these resources is completely different for the API which is defined in, like, let's say in Google or Azure cloud. So these construct will be same. I mean, you're always going to write a code like this, but you need to tweak it out. So for example, rather than using AWS, you need to write Azure or Google Cloud over here. Similarly, the region is completely different in Google Cloud, at least as far as I know. Similarly, you should need to use something different resource. So basically, these construct will remain the same, that you always need to start with the provider block and then you need to define a resource. But under the hood, all these API, they are going to be different based on each and every cloud provider. Okay. So the way you have read all the blocks and everything, they said, okay, write once and use it many times. That is actually not true. You need to modify your code based on your requirement or based on your cloud infrastructure or whatever provider you are using. Okay. Any questions? This is really important, especially for those people who is just starting with Terraform or who just started learning Terraform.